Hey there. A YouTube user called Fortunate, which is a cool name, was kind enough to ask me, please, can I teach something with the capo? Fortunate said, I've been following the lessons, I've done a lot of the kind of A minor E kind of stuff, which is good, and wanted something a bit trickier and maybe a bit more authentic. So whilst I've never claimed to be a flamenco guitarist, you'll notice I always say my lessons are flamenco style, Spanish-esque, etc. I'm inspired by these traditional forms of music, but I've never claimed to be a flamenco guitarist. But let's have a play with some sounds that are inspired by flamenco. So the capo onto the 3rd fret. If you've never used a capo, a great way I heard it explained recently is that the nut of the guitar here, so when we strum our open strings, this nut here is kind of acting as a 0 fret in a sense. You know, when we look at a tab, it's a 0. By putting the capo, we're essentially moving the nut of the instrument, in this case to the 3rd fret, so that this is now my open position. Not all, but a lot of the time when I hear amazing Spanish or flamenco guitar and I try and figure out how to play it, it seems to be the capo at the 3rd fret. So that's the sound that yells to my ears, but that capo can be anywhere that you like. Fortunate, you might be slightly disappointed that because a lot of my lessons are based on very simple chord progressions, A minor E, A minor G, F, E, E to F, and so on. Not because I consider myself a basic guitarist, so I want to just teach you guys simple repetitive things, but because so much of this style of music is based, to my ears, around those fairly basic chord progressions. So here in the 3rd fret capo position G, the big E chord is still very much a go-to. One thing I thought we might do to make it a bit more interesting is playing 6s today. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm using these 3 as a kind of big, fat triple finger. And then I'm using my thumb to go 2, 3, 5, 6. So it's just, the big triple finger is kind of aiming for the higher strings, but it's can hit the other strings on the way. And the big thumb is aiming for the lower half of the strings, but can easily brush the G string or whatever. Go up to the F. Once again, this is harmonically things that we've covered on this channel many times, because in these Spanish and flamenco styles of guitars, they cover it many, many times, and the rhythmic diversity is often what gives it the interest. So one thing I love to do, just then I had you go da 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 da. Now we're gonna, instead of going the one hit with the 3 fingers, we're gonna do a triplet. So that's the index, middle, and ring. See how I'm really flicking them out quite, it's almost an exaggerated movement, the way that one's kicking and then kicking and then kicking. You know, at school I got my pick. At high school we used to play soccer on the table, so we'd get the little crumpled up bit of polar paper and we'd have little soccer kicking. So we actually are kicking because we're applying force. So that's the triplet. So that's a kind of 6 kind of rhythm. Also a 12, so you stay on each chord for twice as long. That's a cool kind of thing that you can do. One thing that I've noticed with the use of the capo is that the strings become tighter and snappier. So there's a increased tension in the sound of the guitar. And to my ear, that lends itself very nicely to those sharp staccato chords. Still an E chord. And then with heavy muting, so that I'm using, you can see I've got basically those 2 fingers are touching all the strings, that one's touching 5 of them, and that one's touching 3 of them. But it's a heavy mute. It's not just one finger just kind of doing it, it's basically the whole left hand, whatever's comfortable. It's a comfortable whole left hand. These kinds of things find that a bit harder to teach, I suppose. It's one of those things you've got to kind of piece together. Like we've got the triplets. I've had videos before about the wrist triplet. Maybe even if you just go with the muted and do some strums, let's say 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Starting to move towards a kind of bullaria rhythm there, which I'm not going to teach you right now because I think there's a lot of people more qualified to teach that than me. I find that to be a really useful sound, so just the chord strum followed by muting. I'm tapping my foot to keep time there. And a sound that, this lesson's kind of meandering a bit, which I like in a sense to do that because we're just trying to pick up little nuggets of information here and there. The when the capo's on, the 3-1-0. Once again, these are things we've done on this channel many times, but they sound cool. And sometimes it's as simple as moving the capo to another position. Might move it up 1 fret to the 4th fret. And you start to hear a different sound. Forgive me for those of you who feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit. It's always really hard to know whether to slow down or jump ahead. And in this case, this lesson is kind of dedicated to YouTube user Fortunate who asked for it. So I'm assuming a certain basic level of knowledge here. I'm also assuming a certain basic level of kind of Spanish style guitar chops, which include the triplets, some finger picking stuff. I'll show you this lick quickly because this is cool. So I'm going 0, 3, 1, 0 on the top string. When I say 0, I mean the capo is 0. And that's the the index finger pulling towards myself. Then I immediately respond with the thumb. So it's the same pattern, 0, 3, 1, 0. But the pinky. And you can get tremendous speed because when they're close to each other on the guitar, see those two fingers, they could just kind of circle in their little respective areas there. So the index finger plays the high string, and then the thumb plays the B string. And you can see that's actually, they're not even moving that fast really. My right hand isn't even moving. My left hand's moving quite quickly, I suppose. But it's just doing a series of pull-offs, 0, 3, 1, 0. So that's a really cool sound. And you can very liberally combine the 3rd fret note with the 4th fret note. So you can alternate between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret note. I'm not going to say randomly, but very liberally, and your ears will train as you progress when it's appropriate. So thank you guys, thank you Fortunate and everyone else on YouTube. I hope I haven't meandered too much. I hope there was some value there for you. I hope you learned something, and I hope you turn off YouTube, pick up your guitar, and go practice. Thank you very much.